Hello everyone, welcome to BISP Solutions. BISP Solution is a tech company that provides technical solutions across the world. So, in our previous sessions, we were discussing about migration of data from QuickBooks to NetSuite. So, first of all, we will be understanding why we are migrating from QuickBooks to NetSuite. So, there are small and medium-sized business often begin their financial management journey with QuickBooks due to simplicity, affordability, and ease of use. So, however, as these businesses grow and their operations become more complex, QuickBooks struggles to accommodate advanced requirements. So, it faces challenges like limited scalability, lack of real-time reporting, insufficient integration capabilities, and inadequate support for multi-entity management, which hinders operational efficiency and decision making. So to address these limitations, businesses must transition to a robust and scalable solutions like NetSuite. So NetSuite provides an integrated cloud-based platform that supports complex financial processes, multi-subsidiary management, real-time analytics, and seamless workflow automation, which enables businesses to streamline operations, enhance productivity, and scale effectively to meet future growth demands. So, this migration ensures that the business can sustain its growth, remain competitive in a dynamic market, and achieve a higher return on investment through efficient resource utilization and improved decision making. So in our previous sessions, we have discussed about many topics. First, we will be understanding what we are doing in this module of migration from QuickBooks to NetSuite. So we will be doing implementation, where we will be setting up and deploying a new system or software from scratch, like for example installing a new ERP system. And then integration. So we will be connecting different systems to work together smoothly, which means like linking accounting software with an CRM. And then we will be migrating, where we will be moving data or applications from one system to another, which means like shifting from on-premise servers to the cloud, just for the ease of business. Then what all we have learned till now is why we are migrating from QuickBooks to NetSuite, and limitations of QuickBooks we are facing, we have discussed right now, and benefits of migration from QuickBooks and NetSuite, objective of implementation, SDLC, which is software development lifecycle, phases of software development life cycles, and SDLC models, which is software development lifecycle models, which consist of waterfall method, V method, Big Bang method, and agile method, etc. Then we have covered business requirement gathering, then understanding scope and objective for the same, and defining functional requirement for making BRD, which is business requirement document. And we have defined technical requirement which we have to use while making BRD document. And after that, we have understood using standard format for making BRD document. Then we have prioritized requirement as per the stakeholders prefer. Then we have maintained clarity and traceability with so that we doesn't get any error while testing it. Then we reviewed and updated regularly with stakeholders. In our previous sessions, we have discussed project scope also, where project scope outlines the boundaries, goals, deliverables, and limitations of the implementation project only. Then key components of the scope we have learned about. Objective is migrating data and operations from QuickBooks to NetSuite while ensuring minimal disruption. Then we have discussed data to migrate, customization and integrations, milestones we will be achieving while preparing FDD, which is functional document preparation. Then establishing timeline and resource allocation, where we will be defining that in this time period we will be completing our work. Then best practices we will be using while making our BRD, FDD documents. Then tools and resources which we will be using while preparing their document. Then establishing timelines and resource allocation will be done. Then phases which will come while preparing BRD and how much time we will be taking. Then example timelines is there and resource allocation tips will be there. So let's start with a small brief of what we have covered in our previous sessions, starting with project scope. So we have discussed that project scope is the outline of boundaries, goals, deliverables and limitations of the implementation project, which consists of key components of the scope, where the objective is to migrate financial data and operations from QuickBooks to NetSuite while ensuring minimum disruptions. And the modules included are general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, fixed assets, inventory and reporting. Then what are the data to migrate is chart of accounts, open and historical transactions, customer and vendor information, inventory and fixed assets record, and financial reports we will be migrating. So customization and integration, where custom workflows or scripts in a NetSuite is customized and integrated. Then integration with existing tools like CRM, payroll or e-commerce platform will be done. Then milestones we will be achieving is like breaking the project into milestone ensures clarity and better tracking of progress, which means milestone which will be covering is project kickoff, which means finalizing project goals and scope, identifying stakeholders and form project teams. Then system analyzing and planning, which means analyzing current QuickBooks setup, which means CoA modules integration will be there, and designing NetSuite structure, which consists of CoA entities and workflows. Then data mapping and cleanup, which means mapping QuickBooks data fields to NetSuite equivalents and cleaning up redundant or outdated data. Then system configuration, which means configuring NetSuite modules and workflows and setting up roles, permission and access networks. Then data migration. Data migration is migrating master data like CoA, customers, vendors, and importing historical transaction and validate accuracy. Then testing and validation, which means conducting system testing for functionality and data integrity and performing user acceptance testing, which means UAT. And user training and support, it means training our users on NetSuite workflows, reports and dashboard and providing them user manuals and conducting Q&A sessions if there is any need for the same. Then go live preparation, which means finalizing cutoff date for QuickBooks operations and preparing a go live checklist, which means data validation will be done, system backups are taken, etc. like that. Then best practices, where we will be assigning or aligning stakeholders, which means regularly we will be communicating with stakeholders about the progress of the documentation. And risk management, which will be identifying potential risk and preparing contingency plans will be there. Testing, which means thoroughly testing all configurations, data migration and integration will be done. Then documentation, we will be maintaining detailed records of configurations, mappings and processes about the same, so that there will be a clarity about the things we have done. Then comes our tools and resources, where first tool was project management tool, which means We will be using Jira, Asana or Microsoft Project for tracking milestones. Then second tool, we will be using data migration tools, which means NetSuite CSV imports assistant, or we can use third-party tools like Celigo or Boomi. Then testing tools we will be using is QA tools like Selenium or manual scripts for UAT, which is user acceptance testing. Then we will be establishing timelines and resources allocation, where a successful migration from QuickBooks to NetSuite involves careful planning, realistic timelines, and optimal resource allocation. So if we want to know which phase will take how much time, then first phase we will be taking as project planning, which will take 1 to 2 weeks, where tasks are defining the project scope and objectives, identifying stakeholders, creating a high level project plan and timeline, where we will be requiring resources like project manager, business analyst, NetSuite implementation partner. Then second phase will be our requirement gathering and analysis, which will take around 2 to 4 weeks, where tasks involved will be document functional and technical requirements will be there, analyzing gaps between QuickBooks and NetSuite functionalities will be there, and finalizing customization and integration needs will be there. So we will be requiring resources like business analysts, key stakeholders, NetSuite consultants. Then third phase will be data mapping and preparation, which will take around 3 to 5 weeks, where the task involves extracting data from QuickBooks, mapping data fields to NetSuite structure, cleaning and validating the data to ensure accuracy and consistency. What resources we will be needing is data analyst and finance team and NetSuite consultant for the same. Then comes our fourth phase, which is system configuration and customizing. It will take around 4 to 6 weeks. So the tasks involved in the same will be configuring NetSuite to match business processes and developing customizations as per requirements, setting up user roles and permissions. So we will be requiring resources like NetSuite administrator, developers, functional consultant. Then integration development and testing will take around 3 to 6 weeks time. So the task involved will be integrating NetSuite with existing system with us, then testing integrations for data flow, accuracy and performance, and resolving any integration issues if there is any. Resources needed for us are developers, QA testers, NetSuite consultants. Then comes our data migration, which will be taking 2 to 4 weeks. So the tasks involved in the same process will be performing a trail migration to test data integrity, then migrating final data into NetSuite, and validating migrated data against QuickBooks for accuracy. So resources needed for the same will be data analyst, QA team, finance team will be required. Then comes our user training and documentation, which will take around 2 to 3 weeks time. So the tasks involved for the same phase will be conducting training session for end users on NetSuite and providing detailed documentation for workflows and processes and addressing user queries and concerns. So for this phase, resources required are trainers and end users only. So after that, go live preparation and execution will be done. It will be done in 1 to 2 weeks time. So the tasks involved in the same will be finalizing cutover plan for switching from QuickBooks to NetSuite, then performing final system and data validation, and then executing go live and monitoring the system closely. Then the resources needed will be project manager, NetSuite consultant, and IT support team, which will help in go live preparation and execution for the same. Then after we go live, so we will be providing support post go live, and optimization will be done. It will be a time period for about 4 to 6 weeks. So the tasks involved will be monitoring system performance and resolving any post implementation issues, then fine tuning configuration and workflows as needed, and then we will be gathering feedback for future enhancement if there is any. And for that we will be requiring resources like support team will be there, IT team will be there, and key stakeholders should be there. After that, Resource allocation tips. First, we will be defining roles clearly, which means we will be ensuring each team members knows their responsibility. Then engaging experts, which means leveraging experienced NetSuite consultants for critical tasks. Then balancing workload, which means distributing tasks evenly to avoid resource burnout. Then lastly is allocating budget wisely. So focusing on training and post go live support for smoother option. Then comes our tools and methodologies for project tracking will be there. So implementing a migration from QuickBooks to NetSuite is a complex project that requires careful planning, execution and monitoring. So using the right tools and methodologies ensuring a smooth transition and successful implementation. So the project management tools we will be using will be Jira, where the purpose of Jira is to track tasks, bugs and sprints, which is ideal for agile and scrum methodologies. Then the tool we will be using Microsoft Project, which solves the purpose for detailed project planning, Gantt charts and resource management. Another tool we will be using is Asana. So the purpose solve will be managing task assignments, deadlines and collaborations. Trello tool will be a simple visual tool using boards and cards to track progress. Then comes our Monday.com tool, which is for customizing workflows for tracking implementation, milestones and team responsibilities. Then comes our methodologies, where waterfall methodology is there. So waterfall methodology's key feature was to sequential phases: requirement gathering, designing, implementation, testing and deployment. Then agile, it is an iterative approach with sprints, regular feedback and flexibility. Hybrid, agile plus waterfall, where it combines with structured approach of waterfall with agile adaptability. Then comes our scrum, where a framework under agile with sprints, daily stand-ups and a scrum master to guide. So these methodologies are when to use. So waterfall for well-defined stable project with clear deliverables and limited changes. Agile for dynamic projects where requirements may evolve during the implementation. Hybrid, agile plus waterfall methodology will be there, so where some parts of the project are fixed while others require flexibility. For Scrum, it will be used for teams that need tight collaboration and quick iterations. So after that, we have discussed about data migration and integration tool. So first was Celigo, where it automates data migration and migrates QuickBooks with NetSuite. Then Boomi, it is a cloud-based integration tool for seamless data transfer and syncing. Then Dell Boomi, where supports complex integrations and workflows is there. Then Suite Apps NetSuite, which is a marketplace in NetSuite for pre-built migration tools. And lastly, what we will be using is manual import with CSV. So exporting QuickBook data through CSV files and importing them into NetSuite using the CSV import assistant. Okay, so after that we have discussed about documentation tools, which means ensuring clear documentation of requirements, tasks and outcomes will be there. So the tools are Confluence, where centralized wiki for storing project details, workflows and decision will be there. Google Workspace tool is for collaborating tools like Google Docs and Sheets for real-time editing and sharing with partner. Then comes up Microsoft OneNote, where note-taking and task tracking for project documentation will be done. Then coming to our today's agenda, which we will be covering is functional design document we will be seeing, then key concepts of the same, then designing of CoA, how can it be designed in NetSuite or QuickBooks, and what we need to ensure while designing CoA will be there. Then understanding the existing CoA and QuickBooks will be done. Then understanding NetSuite CoA structure, then aligning Account types will be done. Cleaning and optimizing the CoA, which means like massaging and then preparing a full data as per the NetSuite. Then creating accounts in NetSuite, how can we create accounts in NetSuite will be done. Then validating the mapping document and the mapping is done correctly or not. Then accounting for multi-subsidiary needs will be done, and then historical data handling will be done. So starting with our FDD, which is functional design document. So a functional design document is a critical deliverable in an end-to-end implementation project. So it means actually it bridges a gap between business requirements and technical implementation, which details how the system will meet business needs. So some key components of FDD are: first, we will be making executive summary, where the purpose of making an executive summary is to give brief overview of the document's objective, and the contents which will be inside executive summary is high level summary of the project's goals and the system's functional design. Then comes our project scope, which means the purpose of project scope is defining what is included in the implementation and what is not. So the contents included in project scope is modules to be implemented, key business processes in scope, and specific exclusions to avoid scope creep. Then comes our business requirements. So the purpose of business requirement is to capture the high level requirements identified during the requirements gathering phase. Then contents involved is detailing requirements organized by business area, reference to the business requirements document, which is BRD if available with us. Then prioritizing requirement, which means must have, nice to have, etc. Then functional overview, which means it describes the overall functionality and design approach of the system. The contents involved in functional overview is system workflows and high level processes will be there, and overview of integration and dependencies will be there. Then comes our detailed functional specification, which means breaking down the functional requirement into detailed specifications. The contents involved in the same will be field level detail for forms and screens, and process workflows for key transactions, business rules, validations and logic will be there, and user roles and access permission will be there, and reports and dashboards required will be mentioned in detailed functional specification. Then comes as integration design. So the purpose of making integration design is to describe the data flow and integration with other systems. So the content involved in the integrated design is source and target system should be there, data mapping and transformation data is there, and API specification and file formats will be there if applicable, and integration points and frequency of data transfer will be there. So after that, customization configuration is there. So the purpose is to detail any customization or configurations required to meet business needs will be there. So the contents involved in the same. So customizing fields, scripts, workflows or forms will be there. Configuration settings for modules should be there, and localization requirements if applicable to them. Then comes our security and compliance purpose. So the purpose for security and compliance is to ensure the system meets security and regulatory requirements. So the contents for the same will be user roles and permission levels will be there, data encryption or masking requirement should be there, and compliance with standards like GDPR, SOX or HIPAA should be there. So after that, testing approach is there. So it outlines the strategy for validating the functional design. So it consists of test case scenarios and use cases, and user acceptance testing criteria, which is UAT, and test environment requirements. Then assumptions and constraints. So the purpose of making assumptions and constraint in that is to document any assumptions or limitation in the design, and contents involved is the resource and timeline assumptions, system limitations or dependencies should be there. Then sign off and approval, it means it formalizes agreement from stakeholders. So the contents involved is signing off section with stakeholders name, roles and signatures should be there, and version history of the document should be there. So these were the key components of FDD. Then why we are making FDD, or why FDD is important for business. So first of all, it provides clarity. It means like it provides a clear understanding of how the system will meet business needs. Then alignment, which means it ensures alignment business users, functional consultants and technical teams. Then comes our minimizes risk, so it reduces misunderstandings and scope creep during development of project. Then comes our reference point, which acts as a blueprint for configuration, customization and testing activities. So that's why FDD is important for us. Then designing of chart of accounts, it means like designing a chart of account is a critical step in implementing any ERP system, including Oracle NetSuite. A well-structured CoA ensures accurate financial reporting, which simplifies reconciliation and supports business decision making. So now we will be understanding how to make it effectively CoA. So first of all, we will be understanding business requirement. So in this particular thing, we will be identifying business operations, reporting needs and legal requirements. Then we will be engaging key stakeholders like finance, operations, tax to align CoA design with business objectives, and then we will be considering industry specific requirement, for example retail, manufacturing, services, like that. Then we will be defining CoA segments, which means we will be determining the primary segments for our CoA, such as account types, which involves assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, expenditure, like that. Then department or cost center, which means for tracking departmental performance. Then location for regional or global operations. Then comes our project or program, where if project accounting is required should be mentioned. Then product or service line for revenue or cost analysis by product. Then comes our establishing a number system. So use a consistent numbers for easy identification and scalability. Like suppose we are numbering assets from 1000 to 1999, then liabilities with 2000 till 2999, then equity with 3000 to 3999, then revenue from 4000 to 4999, and expenses from 5000 to 5999. So it allows room for future growth, like for example leave gap between accounts should be mentioned. So after that we will be creating account categories. So categorizing accounts under headings for financial reporting must involve current assets, which means cash, accounts receivable, inventory should be there. Then fixed assets, for example property, plant and equipment should be there. Then current liabilities, for example accounts payable, accrued expenses, like that. And operating expenses, for example salaries, rent, utilities should be there. Then incorporating sub accounts, which means using sub accounts to capture more detailed information where necessary. So for example sales revenue is there, so we will be providing number as 4100. Then product A revenue we will be mentioning, so we will be providing number as 4110, and for product B revenue we will be providing 4120 number. Then align with reporting standards, so we ensure the CoA compiles with relevant accounting standards like IFRS and GAAP for statutory reporting, and tax regulation for compliance. Then we will be setting up account descriptions, which means providing clear description for each account to avoid ambiguity. For example, like account name 4010 is there with the account domestic sales revenue, so we will be providing description like revenue from product sales within the domestic market is done, so that there is a clarity what has done with that particular account. Then incorporating ERP capabilities is there, so we will be using dimensions in systems like NetSuite to reduce CoA complexity, where instead of creating separate accounts for every department or project, we will be using dimensions or tags to filter and report data. After that, we will be simplifying and optimizing the same, where it will be avoided overcomplicating the CoA with unnecessary details, and we will be focusing on creating a balance between details and manageability. Then comes our review and validate step. So in that we will be validating the CoA design with key stakeholders. Then we will be testing it in a sandbox or staging environment to ensure it meets reporting needs. Then comes our best practices for designing a CoA. So first of all is consistency. So we will be following a logical structure and standardizing naming convention. Then flexibility, where we will be designing our future growth and changes in the business. Then comes our scalability, where it leaves a room for adding new accounts or segments without major restructuring. Then comes our minimal duplication, so we will be using dimensions instead of duplicating accounts for every category. Then localization, we will be incorporating requirements for subsidiaries or international entities for best practices for designing a CoA, which is start of accounts. So for example, simple CoA structure we will be making. So account number we will be giving to account name cash and cash equivalents, which is a asset. So we will be providing account number as 1000, and accounts receivable we will be marking it as 1010 account number, which is also account asset type, and inventory we will be mentioning it as 1100, which is a asset only. And accounts payable, which is a liability, we will be mentioning account number as 2000. Retained earnings, it is an equity, so we will be mentioning 3000 in account number. Then comes our sales revenue, where it is a revenue, and the account number we will be giving is 4000. And COGS, which is a cost of goods sold, is a expense, so we will be mentioning 5000 in account number. Then salaries expenses, which will be coming under 6000 expenses. Then comes our rent expenses, so it will be coming in expense option and under account number 6100. So why there is a gap between cash and cash equivalent and account receivable of 10 numbers, as the account type is same? So if there is any transaction related to cash and equivalent apart from this transaction, so we can mention it under 1000 to 1010. We don't have to make any changes in that. So there is a clarity that this much accounts are in this particular account name. Like that only we can see in expense there is a 1000 account number difference between cost of goods sold and salaries expenses. Why is it so? Because there must be many other transactions done in business for this particular account name, like cost of goods sold to Sham or Ram or Sita, like that. And as we can see, there is 100 number difference between salaries expense and rent expenses, because we can mention in salaries expense that we have given to one employee or person A, person 2, like that we will be mentioning in salaries expenses, or any other wages or something in context with salaries expenses is done, so we will be mentioning it under salaries expense only. So that's why there is a difference in account numbers of every account type. So after that, we will be understanding the existing CoA in QuickBooks. So actually, first of all, we will be exporting the CoA, which means exporting QuickBooks CoA into a spreadsheet for review. Then we will be reviewing account types, where we will be identifying the types of account like assets, liabilities, equity, income, expenses, like that. Then we will be consolidating duplicates, where we will be merging duplicate or redundant accounts for simplicity and accuracy. Then comes our understanding NetSuite CoA structure, where NetSuite supports parent-child hierarchy for accounts, enabling better categorization. So it means like NetSuite support parent-child hierarchy, where we will be mapping standard account types appropriately. Like for assets, we will be mentioning current, fixed, and other. For liabilities, we will be mentioning current, long term. Then for income, revenue, and other income. For expenses, cost of goods sold, operating expenses should be there. After that, we will be aligning account types. So there are 5 account types for the same, like assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses. So in assets, we will be mentioning cash, property, equipment, vehicle, accounts receivable. And in liabilities, we will be mentioning bank loans, account payables, credit cards, unearned revenues, customer credits, like that. Then in equity, we will be covering owner's equity, drawings, contribution, common stocks, retained earnings, like that. Then in revenue, we will be mentioning sales, loyalties, cost of goods sold. And in expenses, we will be mentioning wages, rent, phone bills, utilities, like that. So for the topics we are covering right now, I will show you all the Excel sheet for the same. After the topics are over, just for a brief, then comes our cleaning and optimizing the CoA, where we will be simplifying hierarchies. So in NetSuite, we will be creating parent and child accounts to simplify exporting and categorization. For example, parent account, we are taking operating expenses, and under parent account we will be taking child account as rent, utilities, salaries, like that. We will be making parent and child accounts. Then standardizing naming conventions, where we will be ensuring account names are clear and consistent. Then we will be creating accounts in NetSuite. So first of all, we will be using import tools where we will be using NetSuite CSV import assistant to upload the mapped CoA. Then we will be assigning proper account numbers. If we are using account numbers, we will ensure they are unique and aligned with NetSuite's numbering system. And lastly, we will be checking account preferences, which will configure settings like currency, tax settings and subsidiaries if they are applicable. Then comes our validating the mapping. So in trial balance reconciliation, we will be seeing, after importing the CoA, the reconciliation of the trial balance in QuickBooks and NetSuite. We will be checking to ensure the data accuracy for the same. Then we will be running test transactions, which means we will be performing test entries to validate account behavior in NetSuite. Then comes our account for multi-subsidiary needs. So if we are operating in a multi-subsidiary environment, mapping the CoA to ensure it aligns with NetSuite One World structure, which enables proper financial consolidation. Then comes the historical data handling, where we will be migrating historical transactions by mapping them to the corresponding NetSuite accounts using tools or third-party connectors for seamless data transfer. So I hope this much is clear to all of you. Then now we will be understanding the documents like FDD, starting with FDD. This is the document of FDD. Just 1 second. So this is the functional design document for our company. Here we will be mentioning contents like introduction to FDD, then scope and assumption and constraints, data mapping, workflows with flowcharts, where we will be doing general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable workflows and flowcharts, and testing and validation plan is there, and signing off. Then comes our document control, where we will be ensuring revision history. If there's any changes in particular thing, we will be mentioning date, name and designation of the person with whom we have done revision history. Then reviewers, if our team manager is reviewing or the stakeholder is reviewing, so we will be mentioning the date, name and designation of the particular person who is reviewing the document. Then approval we have to mention for stakeholders, where we will be mentioning date, name and designation for the approval of FDD. Then comes our introduction, where we will be outlining the functional designing for migrating financial data from QuickBooks to NetSuite, which covers general ledger, AP and AR modules as of now, which includes data mapping, migration, workflows and validation methods, which ensures seamless transition and data integrity. So what is the purpose of documenting this particular things? So it provides us a detailed information on how the system solution will function and the requested behavior. In this document, it is created based on the high level requirements which is identified in business requirement document, and it provides traceability on the functional specifications back to the business requirements. In this document, there will be a detailed functional requirement including use cases, system inputs and outputs, process flows, diagrams and mockups. So the scope of project is to migrate historical and open transaction data from QuickBooks to NetSuite. Modules covered are GL, AP and AR, and it ensures that all migrated data aligns with NetSuite chart of account, subsidiary and transaction flows. After that, assumptions which we are taking as both systems have consistent fiscal calendars. Like if QuickBook is using US calendar, so we will be using US calendar only. Then data cleansing and massaging will be completed before migration of any data from QuickBooks to NetSuite. Then QuickBooks data export will be provided in a CSV or Excel format only. Then solution overview, we will be migrating the data from source application, which is QuickBook, to target application, which is NetSuite. In this solution, we will give the solution on the following, like workflow facility, approval facility, role-based access facility, safe search facility, data visualization facility, automated email facility, bulk file upload facility. After that, we will be mentioning GL workflow process also, just for the end users to understand what is the process for the same. If they couldn't see the flowchart and doesn't understand, so we will be starting with data entry or transaction creation, then journal entries will be done, then approval process should be there, then it will be posted to GL, then reporting will be done, like P&L, balance sheet will be done, then audit and compliance should be there, which will adherence to which make sure that the regulation and audit trails is followed. Then ending is data is stored for future reporting. So this is the flowchart for the same. Then P2P is purchase to procure workflow, where the starting is with receipt of vendor invoice, then purchase order matching will be done, then invoice approval should be there, then payment processing is done, then posting is done in AP ledger, then reporting is done, where we will be generating reports on outstanding and processed payments. Then ending is marking invoices paid and updating vendor balance from QuickBooks. Then this is the flow chart for the same. Then comes our order to cash process workflow, where starting with sales order, invoice generation will be done, then invoice submission, where we will be sending invoices to customers, payment receipt should be there, reconciliation done, then posting, then collections management, reporting, and then ending with updating customer balance and closing the invoice. Then WMS workflow is warehouse management system process workflow, where we will be starting with order creation, then picking, packing, shipping, then inventory management should be there, where we will be mentioning, updating inventory counts and locations. Then we will be reporting, where we will be generating reports for order status and inventory levels. Then ending, we will be confirming order fulfillment and shipment for the same. Then reporting requirements, we will be asking our clients, or our clients' requirement are as follows, like they want CSV, Excel or PDF Word report should be downloaded, and the report should be sent to email after a particular time interval should be done. Then client employee should be able to customize the reports and its facilities available in safe searches. Then facility to integrate with Excel and other software should be given. Then customized layout of the invoice and other document should be done. So reporting tools is given here. Then user navigation, how can they navigate through. Then data source, what are the data source from which the data is migrated. Then who uses this tool, this tools are used by which person is mentioned. Then data migration plan should be given, like files downloaded from staging area, is data sufficient? If no, then ask the client to provide the sufficient data, provide the list to client that what problems we are facing while migrating or downloading the data. Then if data is sufficient, then we will be cleaning the data and massaging it, making it meaningful and error free. Then after that, data files are broken into parts based on the capacity allowed. Then uploading the file in the target system will be done. So like that, data migration process is done. Then system configuration is provided, like operating system, which system we are using for migration of data, and if we are using license tool, then hardware, what we are using, PC, laptop or something else, should be there. All the information about the particular PC, laptop should be given here. Then browsers we are using for migrating data, like Chrome, Edge, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, like that. Reporting requirements, CSV Excel file from client. Then we have to send that particular reportings in email also. Then client employees should be able to customize the reports, and this facility is available in safe searches also. Then facility to integrate with Excel and other software should be given. Then customized layout of the invoice and other documents should be done. Then after that, integration requirement, application to application integration should be there. Application to Excel integration is done. Then exception or error reporting is done. Then this is our last page. So this is how we can make FDD for our business. Then comes our understanding the existing CoA in QuickBooks. So we have downloaded the historical data from QuickBooks. So this is the data from QuickBooks. It is a raw file. We have to massage it, and as per NetSuite we have to check that what accounts or what heads we need to map for the same, because in NetSuite every head is not there for filling. So this is how we have exported QuickBook data. Then we have reviewed account types which are not in NetSuite. Then we will be consolidating duplicates if there is any in NetSuite. Then comes our NetSuite CoA structure. So for our we have downloaded CoA of NetSuite, and the heads which CoA in NetSuite is having, we have seen that. So after that we will align account types. So for that, this is the massaged QuickBook data, where we have erased all the gaps from this raw data. Then from NetSuite CoA we have provided both the sheets in one place. Then we have taken heads of QuickBook here and NetSuite's heads here. So these are the this is the QB heads. These are the QB heads, and these are the NetSuite head. So we will be marking the names which are common in both target and source ERP. So account is common in both the ERP, so we have marked it in red. Like that we have marked 5 from source data to target vendor. So these are the heads which are mapped in our CoA. Only the heads we have mapped, and according to this heads we will be migrating these details in particular sheet. So this is the common heads of both QB and NetSuite, and we will be customizing in NetSuite create it if is not available. So like that we will be assigning account types. So this is how we complete our FDD module also. So mapping QuickBooks CoA to NetSuite involves understanding both system structures, cleaning up data, and leveraging NetSuite robust features for better financial management. So with careful planning and validation, we can ensure a smooth transition and enhancing financial reporting in NetSuite. So as you plan our migration journey, remember that choosing the right tools and systems can make all the difference in achieving your business objective. So I hope this webinar has provided you with the clarity and confidence to take the next steps. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great day ahead.